Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. Today we'll be taking a look ahead at the Superprestige in Boom, which marks the comeback of Wout van Aert and Tom Pidcock in the cyclocross season. I am joined by Twan and Issam to talk about that.
Hello.
Hey everybody.
As said, Tom Pidcock and Wout van Aert will be making their return to cyclocross. They announced their calendars previous week. And Twan, what can you tell us about the program of Wout van Aert?
There is still quite a few races. Of course, main missing race at the moment is the World Championships, as he won't quite be sure until he sees how the power relations are between him, Pidcock, and Mathieu van der Poel especially. He will be racing in Boom, of course, here, then Essen, Val di Sol, Dendermonde, Heusden, Zolder, Diegem, Loenhout, Baal, Hulst, Herentals, and Middelkerke. So a very busy Christmas period for him.
Obviously, his goal so far is the Belgian Championships, and depending on how it goes, he will decide whether or not he goes to the United States for the World Championships. Do we think it's fair to say that he is going for the Mathieu van der Poel tactic of last year, using a lot of races in the Christmas period to get yourself into form towards his goal, the Belgian Championships?
I would guess so. I think they're also really good training efforts, of course. Which does tend to help, and the nice money at the finish line and at the start as well. And of course it's great preparation for the championships later in January.
Yeah, personally I think Van Aert is going for this tactic that Van der Poel used last year. Last year, I believe Van der Poel did not come into cyclocross with a great preparation. I think he really used the races to improve his form. Of course, also had a training camp later on in the cyclocross season, but mainly used these races around the Christmas period to come into some sort of decent shape towards the World Championships. I still believe we haven't seen the best Mathieu van der Poel in cyclocross last year, and I don't know how that will turn out for Wout van Aert. Do we think that he will go to the World Championships eventually? Because the decision on that is still to be made.
I think for Wout van Aert to go to the World Championships, the power dynamics have to be a bit like last year, where on a good day there's certainly a good chance that he will be able to capitalize on mistakes of Mathieu van der Poel.
Issam, what do you think? Do you expect him to go to the World Championships?
Yeah, it depends. I think he already probably in his mind has the idea if he wants to go or not, but he just wants to maybe test a couple of things, see if the shape is there, see if he's going to be able to battle it out, and if it's not gonna harm his road season, I think he eventually will go for the Worlds. But if he feels that he needs to do a lot of work, he needs to really put a lot of training and effort into to be in very good shape in the roads, and maybe in not so good shape on the road in the beginning of the season, especially with the spring classics. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he says in the end, somewhere in January, that it's not going to be for him to go to the Worlds, and that he's just going to focus on the road this season.
Personally, I think it all depends on Mathieu van der Poel. Everything comes down to that. Van Aert says the trip to the United States is too far. But in reality, I think what he means is the trip to the United States is too far if he's certain that he stands a very slim chance to beat Mathieu van der Poel. I think if Van Aert, as least, can compete with Van der Poel on some serious parcourses that come close to the Worlds in Fayetteville, I think Van Aert will go then. But if he gets beaten a lot by Van der Poel and potentially Pidcock, then I think he won't go. I think the trip to the United States is perfectly doable. Of course, you do lose a day or day, maybe two, and a bit of jet lag. But on the other hand, Van Aert is an athlete. I think he can deal with this. And, I mean, the story about the omloop just doesn't make sense to me. He says, I want to be good in the omloop. It's a month after the European or the World Championships. But Van Aert didn't do the omloop this year. Last year, he also wasn't supposed to do the omloop. He only added it when Strade Bianchi wasn't cancelled, but because of COVID, they were already feeling that more races would be cancelled. So he only added omloop then. Omloop is not the goal. His first big goal might be Strade, but clearly his big goals are Ronde van Vlaanderen and Paris-Roubaix. So I think if he can compete with Van der Poel, he will go. If he has the feeling, I'm probably not going to win, then he doesn't go. Pidcock, however, has said he will go. Issam, what can you tell us about his program?
Well, he will obviously start as well in Boom, and from there on he will go to the World Cups races in Val di Sol, Rugven, Namur and Dendermonde, to then go to the Superprestige in Heusden Zolder and Diegem. The 1st of January he will be there in Baal for the X2 Badkamers Trofee. Then he will go for the World Cup in Hulst, the X2 Badkamers Trofee race in Hamme. Then he will do the World Cup in Hoogrijden to then go to Fayetteville, and in between Hulst and Hamme he will probably go for a training camp to get prepared for the World Championships.
And what do we think Pidcock can do this season? Last year, of course, he won the Superprestige in Gavere. He competed in Namur for the win. The rest of the season was a bit up and down, but he's made some big steps after that. He is the World Olympic champion mountain bike. Of course, got the top 10 at the World Championships on the road. Almost won Amstel Gold Race. Won Brabantse Pijl. Do we expect bigger things this season from Pidcock?
Bigger things is a bit, I don't know. In a way, I have a feeling that he will be very good. And I don't think that it will come from the first race in Boom. That's probably the reason why he also chose to go for a quite busy period. A quite busy period before he goes into training camp. I think he has in 5-6 days he has 5 races. So, he's really picking his races out, and I have a feeling that he wants to grow into the season as well with as goal the World Championships. And if he has a good shape, if he is able to perform like he did on the road, there are a lot of chances for him at the World Championships, and I think that he has there is a possibility always that he can beat Van der Poel and the others for the world.
The shape is the biggest question as well. I think coming off a surgery and not being able to be on the bike as much as he probably would have liked, not being able to start the season as soon as he would have liked. He has made very big steps, I think, on the other 2 disciplines, and hopefully he can carry some good shape in here, because I do think seeing that progression, that he could give some very great fights during this winter.
And do we already think that they can compete with the best this weekend in Boom? Let's start by discussing Van Aert. Do we expect Van Aert to immediately win, or at least be at the front of the race?
I believe he can challenge for a podium. And that's not optimistic. I think he is an elite rider. I think if he is going to start somewhere, he's going to start with enough, shape to be able to get on a podium. And the race is a very tough race. It's a race where guys with a bigger engine can really get that power going, and we know that Van Aert is someone with a big engine, so in my opinion I think he can battle for a podium. The win is going to be a little bit tougher, because I have a feeling that the guys like Aerts and Iserbyt, they're going very well at the moment. They have a lot of rhythm. So that is going to be the main question, if he can already challenge those guys in his first race.
I think he's an elite rider. It's just what shape he is in coming into the season. I think he'll be competitive once again, but I think we saw it last year in Kortrijk, where he did struggle a little bit to immediately put the hammer down. And yeah, I think we might see a similar thing, just going to struggle a little bit more on the cross-technical bits. And I think it will cost him a chance at the victory, but he should be on there for a long time, I think.
Yeah, I don't expect Van Aert to immediately demolish the field. Last year he got beaten by Eli Iserbyt, Michael van Toerenhout and Twan Aerts in the same race in Boom. As said, in Kortrijk he struggled as well, and in Tabor he also got beaten by Van Toerenhout and Iserbyt. This year he is also starting a bit further back because of the reset of the UCI rankings. He's in, I think, around 25th or 30th place, somewhere there on the UCI rankings. He will be starting from row 3 or potentially 4 based on our estimates. That's not great, but it's also not disastrous. But the start in Boom provides us with a bit of a bottleneck. It's not really easy to move up places quickly, and there's a lot of climbing involved on this parcours of Boom. It's said that it's going to be very muddy. Muddy does mean a bit of running. We've seen that Van Aert has done some serious running trainings as well. I do think that the parcours will suit Wout van Aert, but will he compete for the win? As I said, compete maybe, but I don't think he will win. I think this year we've once again seen a very strong Elie Iserbyt, and personally, I think Elie Iserbyt has improved compared to last season, and he's also become smarter. Last year he was throwing with energy left, right, and center, and this year he's gone for a more professional approach, a more mature approach. He sits around in the faster races where he knows he's the best, waits until the 2 final laps, and then puts out a sprint. It's almost the same as we've seen the case with Simon Yates in the Giro d'Italia, where he was very good in the first 2.5 weeks, and then collapsed because he'd wasted too much energy on, well, not really useless attacks, but at the end of the game, they didn't give him the win whilst he was already comfortably leading. Iserbyt potentially did the same in the previous years. This year, he looks to be more fresh at this point of the season, and I expect we can see a very strong Elie Iserbyt, and perhaps a Twan and Issam as well if we have a muddy and thick parcours here in Boom.
The racing style of Elie for sure has matured. I think he's racing a lot wiser now, and well, it's enjoyable for us to watch as well, because the cross stays interesting for a bit longer, doesn't it? Whether he actually got better or not, I guess we will see, as Van Aert, Pidcock and Van der Poel are going to put him to the test over the coming month.
And then Pidcock, what do we expect from Pidcock here? Last year he had a very tough beginning of the season. What do we think for him here in Boom?
Yeah, it's hard to say, to be honest, because he had his. I think there was some sort of surgery going on. He was off his bike for a couple of weeks, then started training again. It is hard to say because I don't know in what shape he will be returning, and if the plan is to be good in the races right now and to be competitive right now and then to have a peak condition in the Worlds, or is it like really starting from zero and building up to the Worlds in one line? And I have a feeling that Pidcock might be going for that. However, in the mountain bike season, he was there from the start, and I obviously that was after there was a road campaign going in before that, so the shape that he had there, he could just maintain it and go in the mountain bike. But that was quite impressive in my opinion. So it can go two ways in my opinion, and we will see. And I would love to see him fight for a podium, but it really depends on how he will be on that day.
About Pidcock and Van Aert, both their people or their entourage, I must say, have been downplaying their expectations for the beginning of the season, saying they haven't done a lot of training. Well, of course, there's obvious reasons. Twan already mentioned the surgery. Of course, Van Aert took a longer rest period. However, from what I've seen on social media and Strava, we've already seen both athletes do serious training, and we shouldn't forget that these two are seriously talented. Obviously, there's still a lot of room for progression throughout the season, but I don't think for Pidcock it will be disastrous at the beginning of the season. I don't think he will end 20th. I think he'll be comfortably within the top 10. But for the win, I'm looking more towards Iserbyt and Aerts. For Van Aert, I also don't expect a disastrous season start. Just like last year, he'll be solid, competing for a podium as said earlier. What do you guys think? Iserbyt and Aerts for the win, or immediately Pidcock and Van Aert?
I do think Iserbyt and Aerts will still have the edge. Over the last few weeks, it really has been a bit more for Aerts. If it stays dry, though, I do think Elie will take it.
For me, it's. I think I will go for the Twan Aerts victory. In my opinion, he needs to redeem himself from Besançon in a way, and I hope he will. I hope he will fight back. And this is really a race, in my opinion, that can suit him. The hills are a little bit longer, so he can put Iserbyt on a little bit more pressure. We have seen that his power output, in my opinion, is a little bit higher than Iserbyt's. Technique plays a role, but not really in a way. It's quite wide in a couple of sections, so you can make a mistake here and there, but it doesn't really cost you a lot of time, unless you have a big crash or you slip or something. But in my opinion, I think Twan Aerts is the main favorite.
A final name I need to mention here, Quentin Herrmann, coming back after skipping Kortrijk-Besançon. Without a moustache, he said he would take it away after Movember ended. What do you think for the race of Quentin Herrmann's here, Issam?
Yeah, I think he will be an outsider. To be honest, he obviously had a week of rest, which was a double weekend. Doesn't say much because it can also mean that you lack a little bit of rhythm. Some really love it to have every weekend a race or two. So, in my opinion, this is a parkour, especially if it rains a little bit more, that can suit him in a way, and he can really, if he can really find his rhythm, he's one of the guys that you shouldn't let go. He is someone that is willing to attack very early in the race. He can put guys under pressure. He's someone that loves to take initiative, and if they give him a good enough gap, he's gone. So definitely someone to watch out for, and I'm really interested to see what he can do in the race.
Okay, let's make some predictions then. Twan, who do you think? 1, 2, 3.
I'll go with an Iserbyt win ahead of Twan and Aerts and Wout van Aert.
Then I guess I will go with Twan and Aerts winning, and I think second place for I will say Pidcock. I don't know. Maybe he's gonna surprise us, and then for third place, Van Aert.
I will be going with the win for Iserbyt ahead of Wout van Aert, and Twan Aerts in third place after a bad last lap for Twan Aerts. Let's look at our women's race then. Ever since the World Cup in Antwerp was cancelled, we saw that the entries for Boom increased. Almost all the top class riders are there. I don't think I miss one. In the muddy parkour with some climbing involved, I mean, is there anyone who can beat Lucinda Brandt?
Yeah, bad luck. I think that is something that can beat her, but no. In my opinion, if she's going to maintain that form that she's maintaining right now, and I think she's capable of doing that, it's going to be a tough season for a couple of women that want to win a race, because I don't think there are going to be a lot of chances if she keeps going like this. But no, we don't, without the jokes, I think that she has been doing phenomenal so far. We were doubting her a little bit in the beginning of the season. She had some downs. Obviously, there was reasoning behind it, illness, and that can really hamper your conditioning in a way. But she fought back amazingly, got the European Championships, and is on a roll in Besançon. She was in control the whole race, was not really in trouble, and was controlling the race from the start to the finish. So, if she gets the room and she doesn't have a puncture and she doesn't crash, in my opinion, the main favorites in the women category.
Yeah, you did jokingly mention it, but I do think she does have enough control over the race to actually, the only thing that really can defeat her seems to be some misfortune, which is, I really do hope that Denise Betsema, Annemarie Worst, and Alvarado can step up and challenge her, as they have done sometimes, even through these past few weeks. Of course, Worst taking her first victory again. So it can still be a very interesting race, and of course the classification is still very tight between the main three women.
Personally, I am looking at Annemarie Worst as the main opponent if her back works again. I almost forgot what parcourses suit Annemarie Worst following a dreadful year for her, but her back works again. Good to see, and a parcours like this should be something for her. I remember a couple of years ago she was fighting with Aerts here for the win. Aerts, I think, won eventually, but Worst was up there. I think if her back works, this should be a parcours for her. Normally I would also say Yara Kastelein, but she doesn't look to be starting following her injury after the crash in Kortrijk. But, however, since last weekend we have to consider Magali Rochette as a serious podium contender. Parcours here is Besançon with a bit more of climbing by the looks of it, maybe a bit more technical features. What do we think Rochette can do?
That is a very interesting name indeed. Of course, very strong in Besançon. Maybe she can actually challenge Lucinda Brandt a little bit, lapping very strongly in France, and of course just coming off returning from Canada, so probably only better things to come for her.
Behind that, I struggle to see anybody who can really compete. Alvarado also had issues with her back this weekend. but that was following Kortrijk, which was a good race for her. I do think this parcours is a bit too much climbing for Alvarado. Potentially we should look at Fem van Empel. She was pretty solid last week. She's been improving. Before the stage she was hit by a car on training that affected her. Her back was blocked completely and that has a major effect on your performances. So perhaps Van Empel is a bit of a dark horse. I don't see Van Anrooy on my start list. I don't see Pietersen on my start list. These are a handful of riders that are missing. So I don't know. We haven't really discussed Betsema, although Twan did mention her just before. What do we think? Is there any name here that we should still mention as a outsider for a podium or a very dark horse for the win?
I mean, the last name you mentioned, Betsema, in my opinion, started the season very strong. And from there we were like, well, this is maybe going to be her season in a way. Even mentioning her as one of the favorites for the European Championships. But from there on, it seems like there was some sort of, I don't know, in terms of results, it's not like bad or something, but it just like there's something missing in a way, and it's like almost it feels like some sharpness, or it's just not really there in a way. So I hope she can fight something to battle for victory, and it would be, it would be good for the category if someone else is able to get the victory and someone else is able to fight. And we actually have a fight for the victory. So, I hope that, in my opinion, that Betsema has the potential to do it, but she just needs to have a good day.
Yeah, the form clearly isn't there for Betsema at the moment. That's not bad, considering we are coming towards the Christmas period. You don't need to be in your best form right now. You need to be it then and come in with a bit of freshness. So that could be something. And last name I do want to mention here, or actually two, Anake and Ribeirol both had strong showings in Kortrijk last week. Boom will be muddy, just like Kortrijk, but probably a bit tougher. The form for Ribeirol especially is looking to be going up. Any expectations for these two riders?
I think if we're talking about them, you're looking at like maximum a 5th place, like on the best day. But Boom could very well be a good parkour for them indeed.
A final name I would like to mention is the one of Lotto Kopecky. Twan, she had a good road and track season. She's now doing cyclocross. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it's very interesting, of course, last year starting off with the discipline, and hopefully she will be racing quite a few races as well throughout the winter to hopefully take the title of Sonnekant at the Belgian National Championships.
Of course, she became world champion points race, if I'm not mistaken, on the track, and she was vice world champion elimination. Any expectations for her race?
I think it's just really important to get going pretty well, just get a good feel for the cross again. And I think just quickly looking at the people who are all participating, a top 25 should maybe be possible. And just like a decent start to the season, as I said.
Then let's make some predictions. This time, Issam, you get to go first. What do you think?
Well, I will go with Brandt winning. Surprise. But then I think for second place, I think Annemarie Worst will be close to victory, but I don't think she will be able to win. But I think she will be very close. I would say Worst second and then third for Betsema.
I'll go with Bond winning as well, because I do think it's the most obvious result here. Then I'll go with Betsema in second and Fem van Empel in third.
I will be going with the win here for... Nah, I'm not going to say Brandt. Everyone said Brandt. I'm going to go with the win here for Annemarie Worst ahead of Inge van der Heijden and Lucinda Brandt. Let's change things for once, not always the same. Well, then I think we've had it for this episode of the Cyclocross Social podcast. Twan and Issam, thank you for joining me once again.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for hosting. Thank you.
And we will be back this weekend with a new podcast. Then we will be talking about the Superprestige in Boom. No World Cup in Antwerp on Sunday, so only one podcast coming out this weekend. Maybe on Monday, maybe on Sunday, we'll decide on that one later. Next week we have a podcast with Arzoufi and Lechner coming up, so stay tuned for that one. Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you guys soon. Goodbye!